or High Street, Petersburg. With 18 on August 1914 till January 26, 1924 years, Petrograd, from January 26, 1924 to September 6, 1991, Leningrad, in informal conversation, Street. Petersburg, the second most populated city of Russia. Federal city. Administrative center of the Northwestern Federal District. It is based 16 on May 27, 1703 by the Tsar Peter I. In 1714, 1728 and 1732, 1918 the capital of the Russian state. It is called in honor of Saint Peter, the heavenly patron of the Tsar founder, but over time I began to be associated with a name of Peter I more and more. The city historically is also culturally connected with the birth of the Russian Empire and inclusion of Russia in modern history as the European great power. It is located in the northwest of the country, on the coast of the Gulf of Finland and in the mouth of the Neva River. Borders on the Leningrad region, also has sea borders with Finland and Estonia. In Street. Petersburg, there are the Constitutional Court of the Russian Federation, the Heraldic Council of the President of the Russian Federation, Plenipotentiary Representation of the Northwestern Federal District, authorities of the Leningrad region, Interparliamentary Assembly of the CISIS. The main command of Navy and the headquarters of the Western Military District of Armed Forces of Russia are also placed. I was the center of 3 revolutions. 1905, 1907, February and October revolutions of 1917. During the Great Patriotic War in 1941-1944, 872 days I was in blockade, as a result of which about 1 million people died. On May 1, 1945, Leningrad was announced by the hero town. As of 2018 is a part of the federal city of Street. Petersburg, there are also 3 cities of military glory. Kronstadt, Kolpino, Lomonosov. Population 5,376,672. 2022. People. Street. Petersburg, the most northern city in the world with the population more than 1 million people. Also Street. Petersburg is the most western million-plus city of Russia. Among the cities which are completely located in Europe, he is the 3rd in population, conceding only to Moscow and London. And also the 1st in number of inhabitants, the city which isn't the capital. The innovative scenario, strategies of development for Street. Petersburg till 2030 assumes that by 2030 the population will make 5.9 million people. The city, the center of the street. Petersburg city agglomeration. The square of the city of 1439 came after expansion of the territory of Moscow Street. Petersburg is on July 1, 2012 the second in area city of the country. Street. Petersburg is the important economic, scientific and cultural center of Russia, the large transport hub. The historic center of the city and the related complexes of monuments are included into the UNESCO World Cultural Heritage List. It is one of the most important centers of tourism in the country. Among the most significant cultural and tourist objects: Hermitage, Cabinet of Curiosities, Mariinsky Theater, National Library of Russia, Russian Museum, Peter and Paul Fortress Street. Isaac's Cathedral, Nevsky Avenue. To preservation of objects of cultural heritage it is directed, including the program of preservation and development of the historic center of St. Petersburg. In 2019 St. Petersburg was visited by about 10.4 million tourists. It is located in the northwest of the Russian Federation, within the Prenevsky lowland. Coordinates of the center: 59 AN 30 AGAOL. Occupying the coast of the Nevsky Bay Gulf of Finland, adjacent to the mouth of the Neva River, and numerous islands of the Nevsky Delta, the city was stretched from the northwest on the southeast on 90 km. City height above sea level on areas: Center 1.5 m north, 5.30 m south and southwest, 5.22 m. The highest place within the city: Dudagovsky Heights near Krasnoye Selo, with the maximum height of 176 m. In the territory of the city there is a zero mark of a reference system of heights and depths serving as starting point for leveling networks of several states. Before the beginning of the 20th century, the meridian passing through the observatory located in the city was used as zero for counting of geographical longitude on maps of the Russian Empire. Street. Petersburg is in our zone Moscow time. Moscow time. Shift of the applied time concerning Utes is +300. Hydrography. Total length of all water currents in the territory of St. Petersburg reaches 282 km, and the surface of the water makes about 7% of all square of the city. For lifetime of the city, the hydrological network underwent significant changes. His construction in the low marshy place demanded a construction of channels and ponds for drainage. The earth which is taken out at the same time was used for increase in the surface. At the end of the 19th century, the delta of the Neva River consisted of 48 rivers and channels forming 101 islands. Eventually, in process of city building, many reservoirs lost the initial value, became soiled and filled up. In the 20th century, as a result of filling of channels, a channel and sleeves, the number of islands was reduced to 42. Main water highway of the city. The Neva River, which flows into the Nevsky Bay Gulf of Finland, belonging to the Baltic Sea. Delta sleeves are most considerable. Big and small Neva, big, average and small Nevki, Fontanka, Moika, Ekateringovka, Mud Diver, Kharpovka, Shtanovka, Smolenka, Buckle, Krenverksky Passage. Channels. Sea Channel, Obvodny Canal, Griboidov Canal, Kryukov Canal. The main inflows of Neva within the city. At the left, Azora, Slavyanka, Merzinka on the right. Akta, Black Small River. The largest islands in the delta of Neva. Vasilivsky, Petrograd, Krestovsky, Dekabristov. The largest island in the Gulf of Finland. Kotlin Island. Through water city facilities about 800 bridges. Apart from bridges in territories of the industrial enterprises, including 218 pedestrian and 22 adjustable, are thrown. From this quantity a part is in places, once being suburbs of street. Petersburg. In Kronstadt, 5, in Pushkin -54, Peterhof -51, Pavlovsk -16, Lomonosov, 7 bridges. The longest bridge. Begobakovsky. Bridge through the Neva River. Full length of the bridge crossing is 28-24 m. The widest bridge. Blue Bridge on the Moika River. 99.5 m. Considerable part of the territory of the city. Islands of the Delta of Neva, a wide strip between the Gulf of Finland and line of the Baltic Railroad, a left bank to Fontanka. It is located at heights which aren't exceeding 1.23 m above sea level. These areas are subject to danger of the floods connected, mainly, with a wind setup of waters in east part of the Gulf of Finland. The catastrophic character of a flood was at 7 on November 19, 1824. Rise in level of waters above a normal level on 4.21 m. And on September 23, 1924, 3.69 m. At the time of this flood about 70 km were flooded. Territories of the city. For more than a centenary history of street. Petersburg, it was registered, on different sources, about 300 floods. The last dangerous flood. Water rose up to 187 cs from the Kronstadt tide gauge. Was on November 16, 2010 very dangerous. 220 cs. On January 10, 2007. In August 2011 the complex of protective constructions of street. Petersburg from floods. Dam. In the Nevsky Bay Gulf of Finland became operational. For the first time completely it was involved at a flood on December 28, 2011. If the dam wasn't closed, then, according to forecasts of experts, water in Neva this time would rise to a mark of 281 cs. The flood would be in the first 5 in size for all history of observations. Underwater the fifth part of the territory of the city could leave. Thus, the damage which could be about 25 billion rubles was prevented. For the first 10 years of operation of a dam 26 floods with potential damage for the sum of 120 billion rubles are prevented at the total cost of construction of all complex in 106 billion rubles. The climate is moderate, transitional from moderately continental to moderately sea. Such type of climate is explained by a geographical location and the atmospheric circulation characteristic of the Leningrad region. It is caused by a rather small amount coming on the land surface into the atmosphere of solar heat. He is classified by classification of climates of Köppen as damp continental. Influence of cyclones of the Baltic Sea gives warm, damp and short summer and long, cold crude winter. Total inflow of solar radiation is 1.5 times less here than in the south of Ukraine, and it is twice less than in Central Asia. In a year in the city there are on average 62 sunny days. Therefore throughout the most part of year days with cloudy weather, scattered lighting prevail. The day length changes of 5 hours 51 minutes on December 22 till 18 hours 50 minutes on June 22. In the city the so-called white nights. is considered to be that they come on May 25, 26 and come to an end on July 16, 17. When the sun falls for the horizon no more than by 9 are observed and evening twilight practically merges with morning. In total duration of the white nights is more than 50 days. Annual amplitude of the sounds of direct solar radiation on a horizontal surface at the clear sky from 25 mHz/m in December up to 686 mHz/m in June. The overcast reduces on average in a year arrival of total solar radiation by 21% and direct solar radiation for 60%. Average annual total radiation makes 3156 mHz/m. The frequent change of air masses caused substantially by cyclonic activity is characteristic. In the summer the western and northwest winds, in the winter western and southwest prevail. The street. Petersburg meteorological stations have data since 1722. The most high temperature noted in street. Petersburg for the entire period of observations. Plus 37.1 C, and the lowest 35.9 C. Vegetation. Green plantings of street. Petersburg and suburbs together with a surface of the water occupy about 40% of the urban area. According to 2002. By 2000 about 65 m of plantings were the share of one resident. The total area of green plantings exceeds 31,000 hectares, among them 68 parks, 166 gardens, 730 squares, 232 boulevards, 750 planted trees and shrub streets. Parks of the city are located in various landscape conditions. On the lower and top terraces of the coast of the Gulf of Finland. Parks of Strelna, Peterhof and Lomonosov. A moraine plain. Parks of the city of Pushkina. Lump Hills. The Shuvalovsky Park, the Aspen Grove. The basis of a number of parks is made by the natural woods which still kept the pedigree structure. Sosnovka, the Udelny Park. Many parks created in post-war years are broken into territories where wood vegetation actually was absent. The Moscow Victory Park, Seaside Victory Park. On the outskirts of the city the forests which remained from a subband of the southern taiga remained. Yantalovsky Forest Giving, the Erzeev Forest Park, forest islands along the river of Okhta, Talinskoy Highway, between the Neva River and the railroad to Moscow. In the city there are 7 especially protected natural territories. 3 state natural wildlife areas. Yantalovsky, Gladishevsky, northern coast of the Nevsky Lip. And 4 nature sanctuaries. Dudergovsky Heights, Komarovsky Coast, Strelna Coast, Sergievka Park. The Master Plan of Development of Street. Petersburg plans emergence of 5 more wildlife areas and 2 nature sanctuaries. Environmental problems. According to the Ministry of Natural Resources and Environmental Protection of the Russian Federation, in the ecological rating of the large cities of Russia for 2011 Street, Petersburg took the 2nd place. 21 automatic stations of monitoring of atmospheric air work in the city. Emissions in the atmosphere in 2009 made 625.3 thousand tons. The number of emissions of harmful substances per capita is 135. 9k a year, per unit area minus 434.5 t on km. Transport gives 91.9% of all emissions. In 2009, in comparison with previous year, the number of emissions increased on transport by 1%, from stationary sources, for 9.8%. Ecological condition of the Neva River, Nevsky Bay and Gulf of Finland unsatisfactorily. In city boundaries, Neva is polluted by industrial drains. To it, hundreds of the industrial enterprises merge waste. Across Neva, oil products are actively transported. More than 80,000 tons of pollutants annually get to the river. Every year the street. Petersburg Committee on Environmental Management fixes in the water area of Neva on average more than 40 oil spills. In 2013, Rospotrebnadzor Street. Petersburg, from 24 beaches in the territory of the city recognized as suitable for bathing, only one. In 2009, in the city, 8 million m of municipal solid waste were formed. The industry is a source of various production wastes, which considerable part constitutes serious danger to the environment. Waste of the I-3 classes till 2014 was taken for utilization of toxic waste, products of activity of the chemical, medical, industrial companies on Krasny Bor dump site. 30 came to the south from the city into Snensky district of the Leningrad region. Due to the input in a system of constructions on protection of street. Petersburg against floods, there was a reduction of water exchange of the Nevsky Lip to east part of the Gulf of Finland for 10–20%, that gave in addition increased concentration of biogenes in the Nevsky Lip. The unsuccessful choice of places of emission of northern and southwest treatment facilities and high impurity of soil in some regions of the Nevsky Lip gives the contribution.
It also goes the gradual building of shallow parts of the Gulf of Finland between the city and the dam, and the rotting of the remains of plants connected with it, which can lead over time to additional eutrophication of a reservoir and an exception of the water area of extensive sites of the Nevsky Bay, tides, in which a significant amount of harmful compounds will be buried. Problems can arise also in connection with creation of new large alluvial territories in the water area of the Nevsky Lip from Vasilievsky Island. According to Roshidromet, it can create threat of a flood in the city at the closed dam because of reduction of time of her filling. History. Mouth of Neva, beginnings of the 18th century. Fragment of the Swedish general map of the province of Ingria of 1704. Stay of the person in the territory of modern street. Petersburg is traced since the last thawing of the glacier covering this territory. About 12,000 years ago ice receded, and after it people came. The information about Slavs. The Ilmen Slovena and Krivichi is known since the 8–9 centuries. They were engaged in pot-fire agriculture, cattle breeding, hunting and fishing, and made the armed attacks on other people. At the beginning of the 9th century, these lands were a part of the old Russian state, having made a part of the territory of Veliky Novgorod under the name Votik Piatina. The area on the right on the Neva current was called as the Karelian Earth, at the left the Azora Earth. In the 8th–13th centuries there passed the waterway here, from the Varangian and Greeks, from Scandinavia through Eastern Europe to Byzantium. During this period the Novgorod Republic constantly waged wars with Swedes. On July 15, 1240, at confluence of the Azora River with Neva, battle between the Novgorod militia under command of the Prince Alexander Yaroslavich and the Swedish army took place.
In 1300 Swedes at confluence of the river of Okhta with Neva constructed Landskrons fortress, however a year later she was taken by the joint team from Novorodians and local the Karelian and razed to the basis. On the place of the former fortress long time existed the Nevsky mouth, Novgorod Torshish, that is the market. In the 15th century the Azora earth as a part of the Novgorod Republic was attached to the Grand Moskadachi.
As a result of the Biden War with Sweden on the Stolbovsky World of 1617 of the territory down the river to Neva were a part of the Swedish Umbria, which shopping and administrative center was a city of 9 above the fortress Ninjans constructed in 1611 on Landskronas Place.
As a result of Northern War of 1700-1721 the valley of the Neva River was won from Sweden and was a part of the Russian Empire under the Nystatsky Peace Treaty of August 30. On September 1721. 16 on May 27. 1703 in the mouth of Neva, near Nye in the city of Street. Petersburg was put. This afternoon laying with the Tsar Peter I of the Peter and Paul fortress, the first construction of the city, on the Hare Island is dated. She fire of tools had to block waterways of two largest sleeves of the delta of the river. Neva and Big Nevka. In 1704 for protection of sea boundaries of Russia Fortress Kronstadt was founded on the island of the Gulf of Finland Kotlin Island.
I attached to the new city an important strategic importance in providing the waterway from Russia to Western Europe.
The name was written in the first quarter of the 18th century as St. Petersburg. At emergence of the city of the special act defining the name of the city it was accepted not, however the name, St. Petersburg, according to the Dutch option.
St. Peter's City
is practically always mentioned in Peter I's letters and the official newspaper Vedomosti.
Writing Street. Petersburg is for the first time recorded in the Vedomosti newspaper in July 1724.
From the beginning of construction of street. Petersburg across all Russia construction of stone buildings was forbidden, and all bricklayers went for construction of the new city.
The Tsar Piet approximate and also to prosperous people the land plots under the obligation to build on them buildings of the following sizes were distributed.
The noblemen who had from 700 to 1000 domestic had to build houses with a size on a facade not less than 10 is put off.
21, 3m.
Owners of 500, 700 yards built houses on 8 is put off.
17.1 m.
Owners of 100, 300 yards could build mud huts or wooden houses of any sizes. In the first 10 years of existence the city island, the modern Petrograd Island, was a body. There were a Gostiny Dvor, Trinity Church, a set of office buildings, craft settlements and military units. The Admiralty shipyard opened in 1705 on the Admiralty Party. The left coast of Neva, where the Gallery shipyard, winter and summer palaces of Peter I with the summer garden were constructed further became the first industrial enterprise. In 1706 in Street Petersburg the Admiralty Hospital is open. In 1712 Piet I issued the decree on creation of the master plan of Street Petersburg. From now on began to be built up actively. Vasilevsky Island elected the downtown, the Vyborg side construction of suburban palaces of Peterhof, Ekaterinhof, or Nienbaum is developed. Since 1713 all persons, employees to the imperial yard, had to lodge in the new capital. In 1713 the ruling Senate moved to St. Petersburg and the city became the capital of the Russian Empire. From this point from documents the phrase, "disappears the sovereign" is in a campaign, pointing that the Tsar is out of walls of the Moscow Kremlin. On March 17, 1719 in St. Petersburg the engineering school. According to Peter I's decision in 1723 engineering classes of the Moscow School of the Pushkarsky order were transferred to St. Petersburg together with all teachers was open. In 1724 from Moscow the Mint, in Trubetskoye a bastion of the Peter and Paul fortress was translated. By 1725 Smolny the yard, the foundry yard, water sawmills, brick, wax, powder, weapon, spalany, tanning and other plants, the food enterprises are built. The street. Petersburg Academy of Sciences were since 1728 the first Russian newspaper, St. Petersburgskaya Vedomosti, began to appear was the same year founded. The fires and floods led to the middle of the 18th century many buildings built in Petrovsky time in a shabby state, and some were destroyed. So, summer of 1736 and 1737 there were 2 fires, all wooden sea settlement and a considerable part of the Admiralty Island burned up. In 1737 the decree of the Empress Anna Ionovna creates the commission about the street. Petersburg building. P.M. Iroquin headed the commission. According to this plan the idea of three-beam development of St. Petersburg from the Admiralty becoming the composite center was approved, and the part of the trunk main was assigned to Nevsky Avenue. St. Petersburg became one of the largest scientific centers of Russia. A number of educational institutions is created. Smolny Institute of Noble Maidens, Imperial Academy of Arts, Mountain School, the main national school on training of teachers and others. On August 30. On September 1756 the decree on creation of the country's first state theatre is issued. In 1762 the previous commission was succeeded by the commission about the stone structure of St. Petersburg and Moscow, which regulated building of embankments of the small rivers and canals, formation of architectural complexes of central squares. Construction of granite embankments of Neva, Fontanka, and then other rivers and canals of the downtown began. By the end of the 18th century the population of the city made 220,000 people and overtook Moscow on number, in more than 60 Orthodox Christians and 15 Novochesky churches acted. As of 1780, there were more than 1,200 streets and lanes, 3.3 thousand houses, all central part was completely paved by a cobblestone and covered with crossboards. After 1785 the body, the manager of affairs of Sisislavny urban population and formed by Sisislavny elections, city council is created. St. Petersburg in the 19th century. In 1809 the Institute of the Case of Engineers of Means of Communication is open. In 1810 the higher engineering education, in the main engineering school founded in 1806 is given rise. In 1811 Tarskoye Selo Lyceum is founded. 7 on November 19. 1824 there was the most considerable and destructive flood for all history of St. Petersburg, water rose by 421 cs above a normal level. As a result, died by various calculations from 400 to 400 people. The material damage was assessed by many millions of rubles. 14 on December 26. 1825 at Senate Square, the unsuccessful attempt of a coup which purpose was an abolition of autocracy is made. In the first half of the 19th century, registration of architectural complexes of the Palace, Senatorial, Alexandrinsky, Mikhailovsky areas, spit of Vasilievsky Island is finished. Over their creation and also K. 1. Rossi. Anatkov Palace. Reconstruction. The Elgin Palace, building of the Senate and Synod, the Mikhailovsky Palace, Alexandrinsky Theatre building. J. Kavarenji. Smolny Institute. Anno Domini. Zakharov. The project of building of Vasilievsky Island of 1803-1804, the Admiralty. Worked on other architectural monuments. Thomas D. Toman. Old St. Petersburg Stock Exchange with rostral columns. A. N. Voronikin. Kazan Cathedral, House of the State Treasury. O. Montferrand. Alexander Column Street. Isaac's Cathedral. And many others. To the middle of the 1830th years in Street. Petersburg, about 300 factories and the plants, to the middle of the 1870th-25 banks, and by the end of century more than 500 enterprises worked. On the street. Petersburg outskirts, the large plants are constructed. Putilovsky, Obakovsk, Baltic. Industrial and residential areas on the Vyborg side, behind the Narva, Moscow, Nevsky outposts grow. Dense multi-storied building with numerous profitable houses in the downtown is formed. In 1800 at the Admiralty plants the first steam engine is launched. In 1815 the first Russian steamship, Elizabeth, is floated. In 1843 on Alexandrovsk Iron Works the release of the rolling stock for the railroad is begun, and in 1845 the first domestic engine is released. Construction in 1836 of the first railroad between St. Petersburg and Tarskoye Selo became an important event. On August 18, 1850 First Street. Petersburg to Moscow was left by the first train. Soon the message between two cities became regular. In 1837 the Tarskoye Selo station, in the 1850th years, the Nikolaev, Warsaw, Baltic stations, and in 1870, Finland station is built. In 1885 construction of the 32-kilometer sea channel and seaport on the Guchevsky Island is complete. For water supply of the population since 1863 the water supply system in the central regions of the city, since 1876, on Vasilievsky Island the street. Petersburg and Vyborg sides was laid. In 1882 there was the first city telephone exchange, and since 1897 at Ericsson's plant production of telephone sets began. In St. Petersburg later than in other cities of the Russian Empire the tram appeared. In 1839 Pulkovo Observatory, in 1845 the Russian Geographical Society opened. To the middle of the 1890th years over 20 higher educational institutions worked in the city. By results of a census of 1897 the population of the city made, inhabitants, and by the beginning of World War I exceeded 2 million. The third place in Europe after London and Paris.
Creation of Parliament. The first in the history of Russia, the State Duma became result of the Russian Revolution of 1905-1907, which beginning Bloody Sunday is considered January 9.
By 1913 the industrial output of St. Petersburg reached 632 million rubles, 242.6 thousand people were employed at 10-12 enterprises. The capital gave 12% of industrial products of Russia, including 70% of electric products, 50% of chemical products, 25% of cars, 17% of textiles. 567 banks worked in the city.
Power equipment of the capital industry was provided by 294 electro installations and 3 combined heat and power plants.
By 1914 and 60 higher educational institutions of St. Petersburg about 40,000 students studied. Beginning of the 20th century and renaming. World War I strongly affected the fate of St. Petersburg. In August 1914, on a wave of the anti-German moods under Nicholas II's decree, the city is renamed into Petrograd. At the same time, the sense of the name of the city changed. It began to be called not in honor of the saint, and in honor of the founder. By 1917, problems with supply, an everyday occurrence, appeared. There were turns. Disorders on February 23, 27. On March 12, 1917, and other events of the February Revolution came to the end with renunciation of the Emperor Nicholas II, falling of the monarchy and formation of provisional government. On October 25. On November 1917, during October Socialist Revolution, the power in the city passed to Bolsheviks. The Russian Soviet Republic with the capital in Petrograd is created.
During civil war, because of proximity of the front with the German army. 5.1.
Lenin's government moved to Moscow. The city lost the capital status on March 5, 1918.
On January 26, 1924, after 5.1.
Lenin's death, the two All-Union Congress of Councils of the USSR granted Petrosovets' request and renamed the resolution Petrograd into Leningrad. Soviet period.
After the revolutionary events of 1917-1919, the population of the city was reduced. By 1920 it made only 722,000 people.
From the working outskirts to the central regions, about 300,000 people were moved. In 1919, Council for Settlement of the Plan of Petrograd and its outskirts was created. In 1923, housing construction in the city of Zhilmasavav begins.
In the 1930th years, Yelagin and Krestovsky of the island with an exit to the Gulf of Finland were arranged well. On September 23, 1924, there was the second largest flood for all history of the city. Water rose by 380 cs above a normal level.
In 1931, two largest cities of Rusvers, Moscow on June 16, and Leningrad on December, were allocated in separate administrative units, the cities of Republican subordination of Rusvers. In 1933, on the westernmost tip of the Krestovsky Island, the construction of Stadium of S.M. Kirov began. In 1935-1937, the first master plan of Leningrad providing development in the southern direction with borders around Polkovsky Heights is developed.
The area on crossing of Mezdnarani Avenue and Central Arc Highway,
now Moscow Square, with the House of Soviets and other office buildings had to become the center. By 1939 a new version of the master plan which wasn't approved is developed, but according to him construction of residential quarters on Small Okta, Ivanovskaya Street, in Avtov and on Mezdanarodny Avenue began. On all city palaces of culture are constructed, to the middle of 1930 they were available in all industrial regions. In 1932 the first Leningrad Pulkovo airport was open. On December 1, 1934 the first secretary of the Leningrad Regional Committee and a City Town Committee of the All-Union Communist Party. Bolsheviks. The member of the Politburo of the Central Committee of the All-Union Communist Party. Bolsheviks. SM. Kirov fell a victim of murder. This event will lay the foundation to the Kirov Stream and Big Terror. He is succeeded by a Zhdanov.
The heroism and firmness of Leningrad residents were shown during the Great Patriotic War.
On September 8, 1941 the opponent left to Lake Ladoga, captured Shlisselburg, having taken a source of Neva under control, and blocked Leningrad from the land.
This day is considered to be the beginning of blockade of the city by troops of Hitlerite Germany from the south and Finland from the north.
Nearly 900 days and nights in the conditions of a total block inhabitants not only kept the city, but also rendered the huge help to the front. 4 years of blockade died, according to different data, from 600,000 to 1.5 million people. So, on the Nuremberg process the number 632,000 people appeared. Only 3% from them died from bombings and shellings. Other 97% died of hunger.
On the other hand, in the Encyclopedia Great Patriotic War of 1941-1945, which was published in Military Publishing House of the Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation in 2011-2015, these figures are recognized significantly underestimated as the unknown blockade survivors who died within the city and the Leningrad residents who died of hunger in the course of evacuation were considered.
As a result of counter-approach of the Leningrad and Volkhov fronts on January 18, 1943 the blockade ring was broken through, but only on January 27, 1944 blockade was completely raised. After her removal in Leningrad there were only 560,000 inhabitants. Right after these events restoration of the city began. In September 1945 academic year began and the concert season in the big hall of Philharmonic Hall opened. In 1950 the Kirov Stadium became operational. In 1951 the new master plan of development of Leningrad by which it was offered to develop the territory of the city around the historic center in all directions approximately equally is adopted.
In the 1958 years new architectural complexes were created. Lenin Square, Kalin Square, Komsomolskaya Square.
The finished architectural appearance was found by Moskovsky Avenue, Engels Avenue, Stochak Avenue, Srednyiektinsky Avenue, Primorsky Avenue. In 1951 the first air terminal in Pulkovo. In 1973 the new building is built. Is started. On November 15, 1955 the first stage of the Leningrad subway is put in operation. In 1957 the tradition of a midday shot of the gun from Narishkin of a bastion of the Peter and Paul fortress is renewed. Interrupted in 1934. And on the field of Mars the country's first official eternal flame is lit. Same year from shipyards of shipbuilding plant of A. Malta, the first ever atomic Lenin icebreaker is floated, and in 1962 at Kirov plant the release of the Resident of Kirov tractors is begun. In 1960 the memorial of the victims of blockade at the Piskaryovsky Cemetery is open and construction of the new building of Finland Station is finished. In 1962 on the pharmaceutical island the 316-meter television tower is built and the new television center is constructed. With construction in the early 60s of several large house building plants, Massachusetts building of the city by houses 5-story apartment blocks, and from 1970th years began houses ships. On May 6, 1965 to the city of Leningrad the rank the hero town is given. It is for the first time so called in the order of the Supreme Commander Armed Forces of the Hussar of I-5. Stalin of May 1, 1945. In 1966 the last Soviet master plan of Leningrad is approved. According to him, in the 1960th years Massachusetts building of the western part of Vasilievsky Island in alluvial territories, along Novoiselovsky Avenue, Yuri Gagarin Avenue, Kosmonavtov Avenue began. Ilyanka country, the citizen, Polyostrovo, ought to become new large residential areas Kupkino, Avtovo. To anniversary of October, in 1967 the Yubileyny Sports Palace and the big concert hall, October, are constructed. In the 1970th years Yuritsk, the Pine Glade, Vasily Posyolek, the area to the north of the Marinsky Stream, the territory of the former commandant's airfield, the southern part the Merchant, with Shuvalova and Ozarki, the southwest, Ozevka and Powder were built up. In 1979 in the Gulf of Finland construction of a dam which protected the city from floods is begun. In 1982 in the harbour on Vasilievsky Island the marina is constructed. In 1988 the 5 million resident of Leningrad was born. In 1990 the historic center of the city is entered in the UNESCO World Cultural Heritage List. In 1991, by results of a referendum, 54% of citizens supported return of the initial name of the city of street. Petersburg. On September 6, 1991 it was returned by the decree of Presidium of the Supreme Council of Rusfos, and on April 21, 1992 is included in the Constitution of Rusfos by the Congress of People's Deputies of the Russian Federation. On December 25, 1993 the Constitution of the Russian Federation adopted on national vote which confirmed the name street. Petersburg came into force. On June 12, 1991 Anatoly Sobchak was elected the mayor. On March 13, 1996 executive power was delegated to the administration of St. Petersburg which is formed by the governor of St. Petersburg. The position of the mayor was abolished. In 1993 within the All-Russian referendum on April 25 in St. Petersburg the additional question of his republican status was raised. What 75% of inhabitants voted for, however St. Petersburg didn't receive the republican status. Goodwill Games of 1994 became an important event. As a result of accident of 1995 on the subway site between Lasnaya and Ploshchad Meshchestva stations train service was stopped. It is renewed in 2004. In 1991-2007 the set of monuments was established, the Konstantin Antonovsky Palace, Church of the Savior on Blood and many others are restored and restored. For the first time on May 25, 1991, after a long break, the church service passed in Kazan Cathedral. In 2000 the ice arena in which in the same year there took place the World Ice Hockey Championship was built. In 1998-2011 the Belt Road around Street, Petersburg is constructed. On May 27, the 300th anniversary of Street, Petersburg was magnificently celebrated on June 1, 2003. On December 15, 2004 the Bolshoi-Obukovsky Bridge, known as Cable Stayed Bridge, is open. In 2005 the Legislative Assembly of the city adopted the new Master Plan of Street Petersburg, which defined future development of the city till 2025. Since 1997 the Street Petersburg International Economic Forum, the important international economic and political action which received the unofficial name, Russian Davos, is held the annual economic summit. In 2006 the forum changed a format, having become an action with participation of heads of the largest Russian and foreign companies, heads of states and political leaders, prime ministers, deputy prime ministers, ministers, governors. In 2017, more than 14,000 people from more than 143 countries. From July 15 to July 17, 2006 in the Konstantin Antonovsky Palace in Strelna the Group of 8 summit took place. On August 31, 2011 Georgy Poltavchenko was appointed the governor of St. Petersburg. On September 8, 2019 Alexander Beglov, the acting as since October 3, 2018, is elected the governor. In 2017 at Krestovsky Stadium football matches of a group stage and a cup final of Confederations of FIFA were played. In 2018 the city hosted matches of the FIFA World Cup of 2018. Here matches of a group stage, the final, a semi-final and a match for the third place are played. All games are held at stadium on the Krestovsky Island. Since 2017 according to the decree of the President of Russia in Street Petersburg the tradition of carrying out in Day of Navy of the main naval parade on Neva is restored. On July 25, 2021 39 ships, 7 submarines, 48 aircrafts and over 4,000 servicemen participated in another parade. Etymology: Street, Petersburg, St. Peter's City, and also initial, Netherlands. Form of the official name, San. From the date of foundation of the city 16 on May 27, 1703 to 18 on August 31, 1914. In honor of the Apostle Piet, the heavenly patron Peter I. Originally the fortress put in the middle of May 1703 on the Hare Island was so called, soon the name extended to all city. As the special act establishing the official name of the city it was accepted not, and the foreign language environment of Peter used the German, Swedish, Dutch, English languages, as well as the Russian associates of the emperor to some extent knowing these languages. In sources of the first quarter of the 18th century the huge disparate in a city name is observed. More than 30 options are noted. At the same time the disparate concerned all components of the name. Sant and San, Peter and Peter. It is frequent in a genitive case. Peter, Peter. Verkant. The toponym could be written down in 1, 2 or 3 words. So, among the options which are found in Peter I's letters there are following options. St. Petersburg 27.1703 St. Petersburg 29.1703 Petersburg 5.1706 St. Petersburg 11.1710 St. Petersburg 28.4 1714 St. Petersburg 1.1720 In the Vedomosti newspaper the name was mentioned in such forms as St. Petersburg 1703 St. Petersburg 1704 St. Petersburg and St. Petersburg 6.1711 but are more often St. Petersburg, and only since July 1724 Vedomosti instead of street. Petersburg begins to use constantly writing Peter. It allows to consider that the unofficial name of the city of street. Petersburg, which is widely used and now gained distribution till 1724. Purely German form of writing street. Petersburg, which was established after Peter I's death, was used till 1914. In the informal use the city was called street Petersburg, and in a popular speech street Petersburg. On August 31, 1914, after the entry of Russia in World War I, the Emperor Nicholas II, it was most highly declared change of the name of the city from Foreign Street Petersburg to Petrograd as more patriotic and in order to avoid any undesirable associations. Now the capital name didn't correspond to the Saint Apostle Piet, only to her founder Emperor Peter I anymore. Earlier occurred both in fiction. A.S. Pushkin. And in names of some institutions. The Petrograd Old Belief Diocese. Nevertheless, in life the name got accustomed very badly, and still in the early 20s in the household speech many continued to call the city of street Petersburg. On January 26, 1924 the two All-Union Congress of Councils of the USA granted Petrosovets' request. Grigory Zinoviev's initiative. And renamed the resolution Petrograd into Leningrad in honor of 5.1. Lenin, one of organizers of the October Revolution of 1917, the founder and the head of the Soviet state. Verse the USA, which died in 5 days before. The questionnaire on a referendum on June 12, 1991 on return to the city of the historical name. During the survey of 54.86% of the citizens participating in it conducted on June 12, 1991 supported return to the city of his initial name. The decree of Presidium of the Supreme Council of Rusfers of September 6, 1991 1643 I to the city returned the name street Petersburg. However, till February 1992 a number of educational institutions continued to be called Leningrad. On April 21, 1992 the Congress of People's Deputies of the Russian Federation included the returned name of the city in Article 71 of the Constitution Rusfers. This amendment came into force from the moment of publication in Rossiyskaya Gazeta on May 16, 1992. The mayor A.
Subsequently considering it was the main initiator who played a crucial role in return to the city of his initial name, put the most considerable political achievement that is immortalized on the monument established in 2006 to him.
He hoped that his city will become the new bank, shopping, tourist and cultural center on Baltic, with optimism estimated a possibility of transfer of the capital of New Russia at St. Petersburg.
During the 90s and at the beginning of the 21st century, the name Leningrad continues to occur in the speech of some people of the senior generation.
At the same time, this name meets at youth of communistic and pro-Soviet views and also is mentioned in culture. For example, in the name of the Leningrad Group. The former name remained in the name of some organizations.
Leningrad Zoo, Lenenergo.
Unofficial names of the city. The northern capital. Are the second capital of Russia, so often called St. Petersburg, remembering his pre-revolutionary status and considering the current status of the federal city. CP. On an abbreviation, official bibliographic reduction of the name of the city. Cultural capital. The city on Neva. City of the White Knights. Street. Petersburg, the reduced name from street. Petersburg, one of the oldest unofficial names of the city. Northern Venice, figurative comparison with Venice, because of a large number of the rivers and channels and also architecture. Street. Petersburg, poetic comparison with Palmyra, the city of legendary beauty. The city of Lenina, the semi-official name in the Soviet period, which is found in particular on posters of times of the Great Patriotic War. Cradle. City
of 3 revolutions, semi-official, connected with a key role of the city in revolutionary events 1905, 1907 and 1917.
Petropol, poetic tracks, an Alenizirvany form of a name street. Petersburg is for the first time used by M5. Lomonosov. Nevegrad, the name of the city among Old Believers, since the moment of settling by conservatives of St. Petersburg in the 18th century. Now on some periodicals not St. Petersburg and Nevegrad is put by the place of the edition. The notice of the Russian Council of Trevlo-Pravoslavny Pomer Church.
Nevegrad, 1991.
Also local Pomer Old Belief community carries the unofficial name Nevsky. In 1991 this name for the project of renaming of the city was offered by Alexander Solzhenitsyn. Window to Europe, this epithet became popular after Alexander Pushkin in the introduction to the poem, Bronze Horseman. 1833. Used him. Pushkin, however, borrowed this image the Italian philosopher and the critic Francesco Algarotti. The criminal capital, the name which became current after an exit to TV screens of series, Gangster Street. Petersburg. Also this name is mentioned in several series of a TV series of The Street of the Broken Lamps. In honor of St. Petersburg the asteroid. 830. of Petropolitan opened in 1916 by the Russian astronomer Grigory Nuyin in Semysky Observatory is called Awards. The rank the hero town is given on May 1, 1945 by the order of the Supreme Commander I-5. Stalin No. 20 of May 1, 1945.
The medal Gold Star was handed on May 8, 1965 for outstanding merits before the homeland by the courage and heroism shown by workers of Leningrad in fight against fascist aggressors under trying conditions of long enemy blockade and in commemoration of the 20th anniversary of a victory of the Soviet people in the Great Patriotic War of 1941-1945.
The Order of Lenin. On January 26, 1945. For outstanding merits of workers of Leningrad before the homeland, for the courage and heroism, discipline and firmness shown in fight against the German aggressors in difficult conditions of enemy blockade. The Order of Lenin. On June 21, 1957. For outstanding merits of workers of Leningrad before the homeland, for the courage and heroism shown by him in days of Great October Socialist Revolution and in fight against fascist aggressors in the Great Patriotic War, for success achieved in development of the industry and culture in development and development of the new equipment. In connection with the 250th anniversary of the city of Leningrad. Award of the October Revolution. On November 4, 1967. For outstanding merits of workers of Leningrad in revolutionary movement, in Great October Socialist Revolution and a big contribution to formation and strengthening of the Soviet power, for the courage and heroism shown in fights with enemies of the Soviet state for progress in construction of communism. Award of the Red Banner of Reserves. On December 5, 1919. For heroism and dedication of the Petrograd proletariat, for defense of Petrograd in civil war.
The winner of an award in the field of tourism of World Travel Awards in the Best European City Direction nomination in 2015, 2016 and 2017. Administrative territorial device. In borders of areas 111 intracity municipal units are located. 81 municipal districts. Names are appropriated to some of them, some are called by numbers. 9 cities. Zelenogorsk, Kolpino, Krasnoye Selo, Kronstadt, Lomonosov, Pavlovsk, Peterhof, Pushkin, Sestroretsk. And 21 settlements. Authorities. Smolny, the government of St. Petersburg. Mariinsky Palace, the Legislative Assembly of St. Petersburg.
The government in the city is carried out on the basis of the charter which was adopted by Legislative Assembly on January 14, 1998. The highest official is the governor elected by the citizens of the Russian Federation who are living in the territory of St.
Petersburg and having according to the federal law active voting rights on the basis of general equal and direct suffrage at a ballot for the term of 5 years. Since September 2019, Alexander Beglev is elected the governor of St. Petersburg.
Executive power in the city is carried out by the government headed by the governor and other executive bodies of the government of St.
Petersburg making the system of executive bodies of the government of the city, the administration of St. Petersburg. The government is placed in the building of Smolny Institute. Also councils of deputies of municipal units, elections to which took place in 2014 and 2019 work. City budget are among the main profitable sources of the budget of St. Petersburg. Income tax of the organizations, 26%. Income tax, 45.7%. Excises, 4%. Property tax of the organizations, 6.9%. Income from use of the property which is in the state and municipal ownership, 3.6%. Main items of expenditure. National economy, 24.61%. Education, 24.07%. Healthcare, 16.34%. Social policy, 12.48%. Housing and communal services, 10.21%. Nationwide questions, 4.86%. Culture and cinematography, 3.80%. Physical culture and sport, 1.37%. The public debt of street. Petersburg for March 1, 2021 makes 85 billion rubles. Consulate of Germany in street. Petersburg. The city has extensive external relations. Culture days of other cities and countries are periodically carried up. By 2020 street. Petersburg has 96 twin cities. In March 2022, because of invasion of Russia to Ukraine, the Polish cities of Warsaw and Gdansk stopped long-distance cooperation. In the city, consulate generals of 35 countries, 3 honorable consulate generals, 25 honorable consulates, representative offices of the international organizations are located. Interparliamentary Assembly of the State Parties of the CISs, Representative Office of the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, Branch of Eurasian Development Bank, Interparliamentary Assembly of the Eurasian Economic Community. Representations of 28 territorial subjects of the Russian Federation. 17 national and cultural autonomies, 51 national and cultural association, 20 associations are registered. Official symbols of the city. The historical coat of arms of street. Petersburg approved in 1730, confirmed in 1780, complemented in 1857, never cancelled and again put into practice in 1991, is the oldest and main official symbol of the city. The modern flag is accepted on June 8, 1992 and included in the State Heraldic Register of the Russian Federation with assignment of registration number 49. On the coat of arms and a flag of street. Petersburg represented a scepter as a symbol of the capital and imperial power, a sea anchor as a symbol of seaport and a river anchor as a symbol of river port. The coat of arms of Vatican as St. Peter's City served as a prototype. A flag of street. Petersburg, the official symbol of the territorial subject of the Russian Federation, designating in constitutional legal status, unity of residents of street. Petersburg, cultural property of street. Petersburg. It is accepted on June 8, 1992, in 9 months after a release of the relevant decision. The anthem of street. Petersburg is one of city symbols. Music. The anthem to the great city, from the ballet Rengold Glyer, Bronze Horseman, in Grigory Kortmer's edition, Oleg Chaprov's words. Completely it was approved on May 13, 2003. according to Article 7 of the Charter of St. Petersburg. Historical symbols of the city are the ship on the Admiralty spike, a monument, bronze horseman, an angel on a spike of Peter and Paul Cathedral. According to Article 8 of the Charter of St. Petersburg, tradition is the midday gunshot of the alarm tool from Narishkin of a bastion of the Peter and Paul fortress. City holidays and memorials. Besides the all-Russian and international holidays in St. Petersburg, the following city holidays and memorials are celebrated. On January 14, Day of the Charter of St. Petersburg. It is accepted in 1998. On January 18, Day of Break of the Siege of Leningrad. In 1943. On January 27, Day of Liberation of Leningrad from fascist blockade. In 1944. On February 10, Day of Remembrance of Alexander Sergeyevich Pushkin. Day of Death of the Poet in 1837. On May 27, the City Day, Day of Foundation of St. Petersburg. In 1703. On June 5, Day of Break of the Sea Mine Siege of Leningrad. In 1946. It is celebrated since 2006. On June 9, the birthday of Peter I. In 1672. On June 14, Day of Remembrance of St. Righteous John of Kronstadt. The 20th of June, the holiday of graduates of the St. Petersburg schools, Scarlet Sails. It is celebrated from 1968 to 1979 and since 2005. On July 1, Day of the Restorer. It is celebrated since 2006. On July 12, Day of Saint Provoverkovny Apostles Piet and Pavel. On August 15, Day of Ladoga, the first capital of Russia, the predecessor of St. Petersburg. It is founded in 753. On September 8, Day of Remembrance of the Victims of Blockade. The beginning of the Siege of Leningrad in 1941. On September 10, Day of the St. Petersburg Industry. It is celebrated since 2016. On September 12, Day of Transferring of Relics of the Saint Blessed Prince Alexander Nevsky to St. Petersburg. 1724. Day of the Nishtatsky World. 1721. On October 30, Day of the Shipbuilder. It is celebrated since 2014. Population. 5,376,672. 2022. People. Street. Petersburg, the second most populated city of Russia and the fourth city of Europe. And also the second in Europe. After Istanbul. On population, the city which isn't the capital of the state, the center of the street. Petersburg city agglomeration is the most northern million-strong city in the world. In 1990, the population of the city exceeded 5 million people, but since the beginning of the 1990th on 2007 steady depopulation was observed. In 2007 the population was only 4,568,047 people. Since 2009 increase in population is noted, however till 2012 it was noted due to excessive migration gain over natural losses. As a result from 2002 to 2010 increase in population was slightly more than 4%. From 4,661.2 to 4,879.6 thousand. According to Rostat for 2010 the indicator of birth rate was 12.0 on 1,000, mortality indicator 14.2 on 1,000. By results of the All-Russian census of 2010 the population was 4,879,566 people, of them men of 45.6%, women of 54.4%. That is 1194 women are the share of 1,000 men. First place among districts of the city on population is won by Primorsky district. 507.2 thousand people. The expected life expectancy of Petersburgers in 2007 made 64 years at men and 75 years at women. These indicators for 1 year exceed indicators of 2006. As of 2008, 1,100,000 from 4,571,000 of general population of the city are made by pensioners. Of them 55% disabled people. At this time 139,000 inhabitants aged from 80 up to 90 years, 13.4 thousand inhabitants of 90 years lived in the city and are more senior, and 188 inhabitants are more senior than 100 years. On the All-Russian population census of 2010 representatives more than 200 nationalities and nationalities live in street. Petersburg. Russians minus 3,909,000 people. 92. 5% of all population which specified the nationality. Ukrainians minus 64,000 people. 1.52%. Belarusians minus 38,000 people. 0.9%. Tatars minus 31,000 people. 0.73%. Jews minus 24,000 people. 0.57%. Uzbeks minus 20.3 thousand people. 0.48%. Armenians minus 20,000 people. 0.47%. Azerbaijanians minus 17.7 thousand people. 0.36%. Tajiks minus 12.1 thousand people. 0.29%. Georgians minus 8.3 thousand people. 0.2%. Moldavians minus 2,000 people. 0.17%. Kazakhs minus 3.4 thousand people. 0.08%. Finns minus 2.6 thousand people. 0.06%. 31.7% of the population of the city are more senior than 15 years, have the highest or incomplete higher education, 26.7%, secondary vocational education, 13.8%, the secondary general education, 2287 people. 0.06%. Illiterate. Level of registered unemployment in May 2017 was 1.6% of economically active population. The average nominal wage charged for April 2017 was 53272 rubles, 112.2% to the level of April 2016. The size of the living wage per capita for the I quarter 2017 established by the resolution of the government of St. Petersburg of was 10,605.7 rubles. Religion. According to various sociological polls, there are more than a half of residents of St. Petersburg believe in God. Up to 67% by date of IM for 2002. Among believers, the vast majority are the Orthodox Christians. 57%. The second largest Muslims are, then there are Protestants and Catholics. From not Abrahamic religions, Buddhists and some small others are presented. In total in the city there are 268 communities of faiths and religious associations. Russian Orthodox Church 131 Association. Christian of Evangelical Belief 23 Associations. Evangelical Lutheran Church 19 Associations. Evangelical Baptist Christians 13 Associations. And also Old Belief, Roman Catholic Church, Armenian Apostolic Church, Seventh-day Adventist Church, Judaic, Buddhist, Muslim, Baka and others. In the city of 229 cult buildings are owned by everything or conducting religious associations. Among them there are monuments of architecture of federal importance. Street. Isaac's Cathedral, Kazan Cathedral, Samsonievsky Cathedral, Smolny Cathedral, Peter and Paul Cathedral, Nikolabogovlensky Cathedral, Vladimirsky Cathedral, Street. Sofia Cathedral, Troitsismilovsky Cathedral, Fyodorovsky. Monarchic. Cathedral, Cathedral Church of the Saviour on Blood, Trinity Cathedral of Alexander Nevsky Lavra, Orthodox Monasteries. Alexander Nevsky Lavra, Ionovsky Stavropigilny Convent, Voskresensky Novodevichy Convent, Sacred in Troitsk Sergieva Seaside Deserts. Armenian Apostolic Church of Saint Ekaterina, Catholic Temple of Saint Catherine of Alexandria. Catholic Monastery of Saint Anthony of the Wonderworker, Lutheran Church of Saints Peter and Paul, Dutch Reformed Church, Cathedral and Cathedral Mosque, Grand Choral Synagogue, Buddhist Datsun and others. The oldest temple of the city is Peter and Paul Cathedral, 1733. And the largest Kazan Cathedral, 1811. In the city the street. Petersburg Spiritual Academy and the street. Petersburg Theological Seminary of Russian Orthodox Church, Catholic Highest Theological Seminary, work Maria is a Queen Apostolov. Relics of Saints Alexander Nevsky, Jean of Kronstadt, Xenia of St. Petersburg are stored in street. Petersburg. Street. Petersburg, one of the most important economic centers of the Russian Federation. The gross regional product (GRP) of the city in 2015 according to Rusted made 3.24 trillion rubles. In 2013, 2.491 trillion rup. Main types of economic activity are, in brackets, a share in VRP for 2014. Wholesale and retail trade, repair of vehicles, motorcycles, household products and objects of private use, 21.5%. The processing productions, 19.9%. Operations with real estate, rent and provision of services, 19.3%. Transport and communication, 11.8%. Healthcare and providing social services, 6%. The financial market of the city is the second largest regional financial market of Russia. The St. Petersburg Currency Exchange Street. Petersburg Commodity Exchange, PISC St. Petersburg Stock Exchange Street. Petersburg International Commodity Exchange work in the city. In the city 31 banks are registered. The largest. Dienst, Russia Street. Petersburg, Torian, Boltinvest Bank. And representations more than 100 banks of other regions. According to Mercer in 2017 Street. Petersburg takes the 176th place from 231 in the world ranking of level of quality of life in the cities. In economy of street. Petersburg in 2012-2017 about 2.8 trillion rubles were attracted. Now in the city at this stage of realization there are 2.5 thousand investment projects. Industry. Basis of the industry over 700 large and medium-sized enterprises, also make more than 20,000 small enterprises.
In 2016 the volume of outgrowth products the industry of the city was 2,340.5 billion rubles that for 6.9% exceeded indicators of previous year.
In structure of outgrowth products of 30% it is the share of vehicles, cars and different types of the equipment 15%. 7% foodstuff, including drinks and tobacco, 5.7% products of metallurgy and finished metal products. Industry basis. Heavy industry. In the city such shipbuilding enterprises as Admiralty shipyards. The ships for the Navy, tankers, submarines. The average in Nevsky shipbuilding plant. Boats, trawlers for the Navy. Baltic shipyard. Vessels for Morfleet icebreakers. Severnaya Verf work. Vessels for the Navy and Morfleet. The enterprises of mechanical engineering work. Compressor. Compressor equipment, oil and gas equipment. Leningrad metal plant. Steam, gas and hydraulic turbines. Electric power. Electromachines, generators. Electropulp plant. Electric equipment. Sekabel. Power cables, copper hire. Firav plant. Tractors, steel products, agricultural machinery. Arsenal. Space satellites, artillery cannons, compressor stations. Izora plants. Rolling equipment, special equipment. Nuclear reactors. Leninets. Equipment for aircraft and arms, radio-electronic equipment. Svetlana. X-ray tubes, radio-electronic equipment accessories. Vlomo. Optical devices. And others. The transport mechanical engineering is developed. Wagon mash. Cost for the railroads and electric cars for the subway. Automobile plants of the Ford, Toyota, General Motors, Scania, Nissan, Hyundai Motor and MAN companies. In 9 months 2016 in the city 25% of the new cars sold in Russia were assembled. Considerable industrial output is formed by the enterprises of the industry of production of arms. In the city also non-ferrous metallurgy. The red resident of Viborg. Chemical. EMP Neva. The light printing industry is developed black. Izora pipe plant of the Severstal Company. Among the largest enterprises of the food industry. The plant of Baltica Brewery. Beer, soft drinks, mineral waters. Beer factory of the Heineken Company, brewery of Stepan Razin, bakery of Moskovsky District. Bakery, Mili Confectionery, Phaser. Factory of Kropskaya. Candies and chocolate. Meat processing plant Parnassus M. Sausages, canned meat and semi-finished products.
Belongs, Kirav's Mill.
Grain, flour. Dairy plant Petmel.
Danone belongs.
The plant of the Polyostrova mineral waters, meat processing plants, the enterprises for production of confectionery, fish products and many others.
The number of employees of the industrial enterprises for data of operational statistical reporting for 2018 was 346.9 thousand people.
99.8% by 2017. The average monthly salary of workers in the industry minus 65.4 thousand rubles. 109.7% by 2017. Consumer market. Retail trade turnover in 2016 was 1,215.6 billion rubles, that is 1.5% less than in previous year. In structure of a turn foodstuff, including drinks and tobacco products. In 2016 made 36%, non-foods minus 64%. In 2016 it was rendered to the population of paid services on 417 billion rubles. The consumer market of street. Petersburg provides employment to the fifth part of the population occupied in municipal economy and makes the fifth part of a gross internal regional product. It includes about 15.9 thousand enterprises of retail trade, including food products of daily demand to the population, realize more than 6.5 thousand trade enterprises. 6.8 thousand public catering, more than 8.5 thousand consumer services. 171 complexes of small retail trade, 22 markets work in the city. From them 16 agricultural products specialized on realization. In street.
Petersburg retail chain stores are presented.
International. Okan, Kiryoka, Spar, Metro, Prisma. Federal.
OK, the Tape, Dixie, the Magnet and also Pitaraka, the Roundabout and the intersection belonging to X Retail Group.
Inner regional.
7-Ya family, True, Norma, the Idea Net, the Alphabet of Taste, Peluche.
Local. The Season, Line, Lend, Remag, the Smart, Real. And others. The share of large retail chain stores in retail commodity turnover makes 76%. Street.
Petersburg is one of the cities defining development of media space of the country. High quantitative and quality indicators are characteristic of the printing market of the northern capital.
Here more than 100 newspapers. Single circulation about 10 million copies. And 150 magazines. Over 7 million copies are issued. The approximate annual volume of implementation of periodic printed materials in the city minus 185 million copies. 132 million copies are implemented at retail and 53 million on a subscription. In street. Petersburg, the head office of Federal Television Channel 5 is located. Besides, in the city broadcast regional TV channels 78 Channel Street. Petersburg. Also a number of regional television stations works. Leningrad Regional TV Company, NTV Street. Petersburg, St. Street. Petersburg, St. Street. Petersburg. Construction and investments. In 2016 in the city it was executed construction works for the sum of 409.3 billion rubles. It is put into operation of 3,116.3 thousand m of housing. In 2016 the volume of investment into fixed capital was 582.3 billion rubles. The credit rating of St. Petersburg is long-term credit rating on the international scale in foreign currency. Fitch Ratings rating agency. Stable. Date of the last change of rating October 2016. Moody's Investors Service of Investors Service. VA. Stable. February 2017. Germany, Kazakhstan, the Republic of Korea, the Virgin Islands, Sweden, Cyprus, Austria, Netherlands, Great Britain, Finland, Switzerland, Belarus were the largest countries investors in St. Petersburg in 2013. In 2012 St. Petersburg took the second place in the rating of quality of the urban environment made by the Ministry of Regional Development of the Russian Federation, the Russian Union of Engineers, Federal Construction and Housing and Communal Services Agency, Federal Service for the Oversight of Consumer Protection and Welfare, and also Lomonosov Moscow State University. An essential role in the economy is played by the travel business connected with reception of guests from Russia and foreign countries, and also the economic activity connected with it in services industry. The city has considerable historical and cultural heritage for formation of a tourist product, for transformation of tourism into a key branch of urban economy. St. Petersburg, following the results of 2012, took the 10th place. In 2010, the 7th place. Among the most visited and popular cities of Europe with tourists. In 2018, St. Petersburg was visited by about 8.5 million tourists. In 2017, 7.5 million. From them the Russian tourists minus 5.5 million people, foreign minus 4.9 million people. In 2016 tourists there were 6.9 million. The number of the foreign citizens who arrived in the city through checkpoints of the Northwestern Federal District in 2016 was 2,847.2 thousand people. Generally tourists of Finland, Germany, the USA, Sweden and France. In the city more than 260 large and small hotels work for 27,000 numbers. Including hotels, Grand Hotel Europe, Astoria, Corinthia Street. Petersburg, Pribaltiskaya, Polkovskaya, Street. Petersburg, Moscow, Russia, October, Azimuth Street. Petersburg Hotel, and others. Boards. With putting into operation of new sea passenger port in the west of Vasilyevsky Island and cancellation of a visa regime for short-term visits of tourists, the city becomes one of the centers of cruise tourism of Europe. In 2016 the northern capital was visited by 457,000 cruise tourists. 209 vessel calls. In December 2016 Street.
Petersburg received a prestigious award in the field of the tourism industry of World Travel Awards in the World's Leading Cultural City Destination 2016 nomination in Russian-speaking sources, which received the name Tourist Capital of the World.
Municipal services. The enterprise which is engaged in water supply and channeling in the city is Suvodokanal Street. Petersburg. The main source of water supply is the Neva River. From it more than 96% of water which undergoes processing at 5 largest waterworks get.
Main northern, southern Volkovsky waterworks, water treatment facilities of the city of Kolpino.
On June 26, 2009 Street.
Petersburg became the first megalopolis in which all drinking water undergoes processing by ultraviolet and which completely refused use of liquid chlorine for water disinfecting.
21 sewer clearing constructions, the largest of them work in the city. The central and northern stations of aeration and also southwest treatment facilities work 3 plants on burning of a deposit of sewage. Wastewater began to be purified since 1979. By the end of 2008 Street, Petersburg purifies 91.7% of sewage. In October 2013, with commissioning of the main collecting pipe of a northern part of the city, cleaning there undergo 98.4% of sewage of the city. In 2010 93%. In 2016 average daily giving of drinking water to consumers made 1597,000 m. Expenses and losses when transporting water -12%. The average daily volume of the sewage which underwent cleaning on sewer treatment facilities was 2.2 million m/days. In the system of heat supply HEPS-TX-1, 3 departmental combined heat and power plants, 377 boiler houses TechCP, 48 boiler houses, Lentiplosnub, 140 boiler houses of Petersburg Teplarnego, 28 boiler houses, Petergurgaspit, 179 departmental boiler houses work. Extent of thermal networks is more than 600 km. In the territory of the city 118 high-voltage substations with a total power more than 15,000 megawatts are located. A main type of boiler and oven fuel in municipal economy is natural gas, which share makes 94%. The rest is made by fuel oil and coal.
The largest warm and energy generating enterprises of the city belong to TX-1.
Central Combined Heat and Power Plant, Right Bank Combined Heat and Power Plant No. 5. Vyborg Combined Heat and Power Plant No. 17. Northern Combined Heat and Power Plant No. 21. Midday Combined Heat and Power Plant No.
14. Yuzhny Chet No.
22. Rostovsky Combined Heat and Power Plant No. 15. Transport. Street. Petersburg, the largest transport hub of the northwest of Russia and the country's second after Moscow. It includes the railroads, marine and river transport, highways and airlines. Through the city pass. 2 Eurasian transport corridors, the north, the south and the Sevsib, Pan-European Transport Corridor No. 9. The European Automobile Route E18 connecting Scandinavia with the center of Russia. In 2010 in Street. Petersburg it is transported freights. By rail 101 million tons, pipeline 85 million tons, sea 9 million tons, automobile Without small business. 4 million tons, internal water 1.2 million tons. For decrease in load of city highways with transit transport, the Belt Road branch is constructed. The main routes connecting St. Petersburg with other regions are clockwise from the Gulf of Finland.
Primorskoye Highway, Vyborgskoye Highway, Priozerskoye Highway, Rybovskoye Highway, Murmanskoye Highway, Petrozavodskoye Highway, Moskovskoye Highway, High-Speed Highway, Neva.
Moscow Street, Petersburg.
Polkavskoye Highway, Kyevskoye Highway, Talinskoye Highway, Petergovskoye Highway. According to the Transport Infrastructure Committee of the Administration of St. Petersburg as of September 2017, 37% of intracity roads are in a substandard state.
By 2020 it is planned to lower this share to 20%. In the territory of the city are the big port street.
Petersburg including 5 pools.
East Baroque, passenger, raid of the Forest Pier and the Coal Harbour. The Silistrovsky Cargo Port, Kronstadt Port, Lomonosov Port. In them all products, metals, forest freights, containers, coal, ore, chemical freights, scrap metal are overloaded. Goods turnover of Big Port following the results of the first half of the year 2010 made 26.35 million tons. Plus 6.4% by the same period of 2009.
He is connected to the sea. The sea channel 27 miles long and is open for calling of vessels all the year round.
On the westernmost tip of Vasilivsky Island, the sea passenger terminal for reception of cruise liners and ferries is located.
The essential share of transportations by the water transport is the share of river transportations across Neva, connecting the city with Lake Ladoga and being a final piece of the Volga-Baltic waterway.
The decision on construction of the new river station instead of taken down in 2012 is made. Passenger air transport is carried out through the Pulkovo airport located on the southern outskirts. From the cities having only one airport for passenger traffic, St. Petersburg is the first in population in Europe. In 2018 the passenger traffic made more than 18 million passengers. Since December 4, 2013 the new centralized passenger terminal, which is carrying out full service of the international flights and also registration for flight and pre-flight procedures for internal flights, works. The reconstructed building of the former terminal of Pulkovo 1 is put into operation on February 4, 2015 as expansion of the new centralized terminal for reception and sending internal flights. In the city the Russia state-owned airline is registered. The St. Petersburg Railway Junction, the country's second largest after Moscow. On Imogen's time the history of Russian railways began in the 19th century here. It is a part of Oktябrskaya Railway and includes 5 head railway stations. Baltic, Vitebsk, Ladoga, Moscow, Finnish. 7 radial directions. Vyborg, Lakeside, Volkostrojevsky, Kirishi, Moscow, Novgorod, Vitebsk, Warsaw. Pskov. Narva, Oranienbaum. 2 switchyards. Street. Petersburg sorting, Shushari. 4 port stations. Evtovo, Newport, Oranienbaum, Branka. In the city, management of Oktябrskaya Railway of Chesk, Russian Railways, is located. Transportation of passengers by the high-speed train, Sapsan, along a route street. Petersburg, Moscow on the high-speed train, Allegro, along a route street.
Petersburg, Helsinki, also the electric trains, Swallow, entered since 2018 in the suburban directions is carried up.
Pinery. Since March. Pskov. Since August. Tosno. Since December. Through Sortovala to the tourist Rukskila complex. December. Since 1955 the subway works. For the beginning of November 2019 in the street. Petersburg subway, there were 72 stations on 5 lines, 7 transfer knots. The operational length of lines was 124.7 km. Design and construction of the subway in street. Petersburg is carried out according to the following regulatory base. The Master Plan of Street. Petersburg approved by the Law of Street. Petersburg of No. 728/99. With changes for the industry scheme of development of the subway in street. Petersburg approved by the resolution of the government of street. Petersburg of No. 836. In addition of the resolution of the government of street. Petersburg of No. 921. The state program, development of the transport system of street. Petersburg approved by the resolution of the government of street. Petersburg of No. 552. With changes for as of 2001 in street. Petersburg, the world's largest tram network, worked. In recent years it was considerably reduced. Also in the city there are developed networks of bus and trolleybus traffic. Here the number of the trolleybus trains of Vladimir Veklik, greatest in the USSR, consisting of 2 Zu-682 cars, was operated. In total there were more than 111 units. The considerable volume of transportations is carried out by share taxis. The state and quality of work of public transport, its safety and the organization of transportations are exposed to criticism and don't conform to modern requirements. There are attempts of development of small navigation in the rivers and channels of the city. From 2010 to 2016 several lines of the Aquabus worked. In 2010 across street Petersburg by public transport it was transported. Subway of 777 million people, by trams of 477 million, motor transport 473 million, trolleybuses 281 million, railway 136 million, sea 4 million. In 2011 70% of the population of the city used city passenger transport, spending for the road for work and back on average in 56 minutes a day. Science and education. For January 2012 the system of preschool education was made by 1054 kindergartens and a day nursery. Practically all of them, except for single private institutions, are on balance of municipality.
In the city of 690 educational institutions, from them 609 schools, including 135 with profound studying of objects, 72 gymnasiums, 45 lyceums, 21 evening schools, 40 correctional schools, 8 boarding schools, 19 special schools, 58 institutions of additional education of children, 48 institutions of primary and secondary professional education.
Among them we will note Vaganova Ballet Academy, the street. Petersburg Musical College of M.P. Musorgsky, from military institutions, the street. Petersburg Suvorov Military School, Nakhimov Naval School, Military Space Military School of Peter the Great, Sea Military School, and others are known. In street.
Petersburg 56 state and 45 private higher educational institutions, among which such known as street.
Petersburg State University, the street. Petersburg State Architectural and Construction University, the street. Petersburg State Medical University of a name of the academician I.P. Pavlov, the street. Petersburg State Transport University of the Emperor Alexander I, street. Petersburg State Marine Technical University, street. Petersburg State University of Telecommunications of a name of Professor Master of Arts Bonch-Bruevich, the street. Petersburg State Polytechnical University, the street. Petersburg State Institute of Technology, the Technical University, the street. Petersburg State Electrotechnical University, the street. Petersburg State Economic University, the street. Petersburg State Mining Institute, St. Petersburg State National Research University of Information Technologies, Mechanics and Optics, Herzen State Pedagogical University of Russia, the street. Petersburg State Timber University, the street. Petersburg State Institute of Cinema and Television, and others are based. In the city a number of military higher educational institutions functions. Military Space Academy of A.F. Nashaysky Army Medical College of S.M.
Kirov Mikhailovsky Military Artillery Academy, street.
Petersburg Naval Institute, Military Technical University, street.
Petersburg Highest Military College of Radio Electronics, street.
Petersburg Institute AFSEF of Russia, and others. Street.
Petersburg, one of the largest scientific education centers of Russia, in which there are more than 10% of scientific capacity of the country.
These are more than 350 scientific organizations, including 70 academies of sciences, organizations of the Russian Federation, and other state academies, in which 170,000 research associates, including 9,000 doctors of science and 26,000 candidates of science work. All number occupied in the scientific and educational sphere as a part of the total number of the population of the city takes the second place in the Russian Federation. And in the street. Petersburg Scientific Center of the Russian Academy of Sciences, uniting over 60 academic institutes and other research establishments, is located. Numerous research institutes. On the southern outskirts, Main. Polkovskaya. The Astronomical Observatory of the Russian Academy of Sciences is located. Healthcare. Most healthcare institutions of street. Petersburg are a part of the system of the Ministry of Health of the Russian Federation and are divided into 4 groups. Submitting to Health Committee of Street. Petersburg, Federal institutions of the Russian Ministry of Health, Federal institutions of FABA and institutions of the Leningrad region which are within the city. The Healthcare Committee of the Government of St. Petersburg is executive body of the government on carrying out urban policy in health sector. Besides the institutions which are a part of the system of the Russian Ministry of Health in the city, healthcare institutions of other departments and also non-state institutions are located. In the city of 106 outpatient and polyclinic institutions, 33 dental polyclinics, 44 clinics of a different profile, 83 stationary medical institutions, 24 hospitals, 57 stations of ambulance. Among them, Army Medical College of SM. Kirov Alexandrovsky Hospital, Hospital for Veterans of Wars, City Lunatic Asylums of Kashenko, St. Nicholas the Wonderworker, Clinical Infectious Diseases Hospital of Potkin, Scientific Research Institute of Flu, Scientific Research Institute of Obstetrics and Gynecology of Ott, Children's Hospital of Rockfuss, Children's Clinical Hospital of Filatov and others. Since 2005 the National Priority Health Project providing modernization of a system of urban health care is implemented. As of 2015 healthcare level in the city on a number of indicators remains to the best in Russia, also here the lowest death rate in the country. Since 2012 there is an active modernization of the medical equipment and the program for improvement of quality for carrying out medical examination of the population is carried out, the program for improvement of living conditions to health workers is carried out. Crime. In 2011 the crime rate in street Petersburg was 1218 registered crimes on 100,000 inhabitants. The 122nd place among the cities of Russia. Decrease in comparison with 2010 for 13.6%. Solvability of crimes was 53.2% and her share decreases in recent years. Growth of the crimes connected with drug trafficking was observed for 29.3%. The number of heavy and especially serious crimes decreases, their share in total number of the registered crimes made 41.7%. Specific weight of crimes of economic orientation in the total number of the registered crimes was 6.9%. Level of street crime where property crimes, thefts, robberies, 67.5%. Prevail decreases, at the same time the share of the crimes connected with drug trafficking, 12.9%. Grows. The share of thefts from dwellings and objects of various forms of ownership decreases, 37.9% of total number of crimes on the city. In structure of administrative offenses, 71% violations in the sphere of improvement, 17% trade violation of the rules, 12% violation of the law about silence. By results of polls of residents the general unsatisfactory evaluation of the work of law enforcement agencies remains. In the territory of the city there are 4 pre-trial detention centers, including well-known crosses, 4 corrective labor colonies and 1 educational colony. Kolpino. Culture and art. Street. Petersburg is the cultural center of world value, often it is called the cultural capital of Russia. In the city 8464 objects of cultural heritage, historical and cultural monuments,
including 4213 objects of cultural heritage of federal importance are located. That makes nearly 10% of all monuments protected by the state in the territory of the Russian Federation.
Over 200 museums and their branches work, including the Hermitage. About 3 million works of art and monuments of world culture. The Russian Museum, the most extensive museum of the Russian art. Central Naval Museum, the Museum of Academy of Arts of Russia, the Museum of a City Sculpture, the Museum of History of Street. Petersburg, Peter the Great Museum of Anthropology and Ethnography. Cabinet of Curiosities. The Museum, the institution of the family Rarikov, Palace and Park Memorial Estates of Peterhof, Oranienbaum, Tsarskoye Selo, Pavlovsk, the Pushkinskaya, 10 Art Center, the Museum of Modern Art Arata, National Pushkin Museum, the Museum of Defense and Siege of Leningrad and others. Lenexpo Exhibition Complex. More than 70 theaters, including Mariinsky Theater, Alexandrinsky Theater, Mikhailovsky Theater, Tavstanogov Bolshoi Drama Theater, Street. Petersburg Academic Comedy Theater of N.P. Akhimov Small Drama Theater of Europe, Street. Petersburg Academic Lensovet Theater, Baltic House Academic Drama Theater of 5. F. Komissazovskaya, Theater of a Clownery, Actors, Beak Street. Petersburg State Circus and many others. 1100 libraries. The largest among them National Library of Russia. Public Library of the Russian Academy of Sciences, Presidential Library of B.N. Yeltsin. More than 50 cultural and leisure institutions. More than 50 movie theaters. In Street. Petersburg several creative higher education institutions. Street. Petersburg Conservatory of Rimsky-Korsakov, Vaganova Ballet Academy, Russian State Institute of Theatrics, Street. Petersburg Institute of Painting, Sculpture and Architecture of Rapin, Street.
Petersburg Art and Industrial Academy of Sheglitz, Street.
Petersburg Art School of Roerich, Street. Petersburg State Institute of Cinema and Television. About 10 film studios, among them, oldest Len Film, Lenoche Film work in the city. In 2011 in Street. Petersburg there took place nearly 1,000 exhibitions, more than 120 premieres, nearly 300 festivals, among them
the International Festival of the Ballet, the Mariinsky International Festival of Arts, Stars of the White Nights, the International Winter Festival, Arts Square, the International Festival of the Ballet, Dance Open, the International Musical Festival, Palaces of Street. Petersburg, the International Festival of Jazz, Swing of the White Night, the International Festival of Arts, From Vanguard Up to Now, the International Film Festival, Festival of Festivals, the International Festival of Bikers in Olgino, the International Theatre Festival, Baltic House, the International Competition Festival of Creativity for Children and Young People, a childhood holiday. Since 1981 until the beginning of the 1990th years in Leningrad, the Leningrad Rock Club, which laid the foundation for legalization of rock collectives of the city, worked.
The groups Picnic, Aquarium, Zoo, MITS participated in the organization of club, and the groups Octian, Kino, Alice, Pop Mechanic, DDT, Knoll and many others took part in his work later. Now Victor Sue's Club Museum Kamchatka works in the city. The singer's grave at the Theological Cemetery is the place of a pilgrimage of his admirers. On May 26, 2013, in days of celebration of 310-year anniversary from the date of foundation of the city, there took place Massachusetts performance of songs about street. Petersburg. 4335 people at street. Isaac Square, under accompaniment of symphonic orchestra, within an hour sang 14 songs. The event can enter the Guinness Book of Records. In 1990, the historic center of St. Petersburg and Palace and Park ensembles of suburbs are included in the UNESCO World Cultural Heritage List. Under protection of the state, there are about 8,000 monuments of architecture. In 2005, the St. Petersburg strategy of preservation of cultural heritage is accepted. The majestic image of the city is defined by architectural complexes, strict direct streets, the spacious areas, gardens and parks, the rivers and numerous channels, embankments, bridges, figured fencings, monumental and decorative sculptures. Architectural complexes of the 18-20 centuries. The Peter and Paul Fortress, Alexander Nevsky Lavra, Smolny Institute, Palace Square with the Winter Palace, the Admiralty, Nevsky Avenue, the spit of Vasilievsky Island with Old St. Petersburg Stock Exchange, Senate Square with a monument to Peter I, Architect Rossi Street and Ostrovsky Square, Art Square, Street. Isaac Square and, created in the 20th century, Vostania Square. Rapid development of street. Petersburg became a call to traditional idea of the city with centuries-old history which grows and develops slowly. Piet conceived the city on a sample of Venice and Amsterdam. Instead of streets, paved a stone, the network of channels on which inhabitants would get over on light vessels had to cover the city. The Peter dream wasn't fated to come true, for an experience formed the basis of further building. The Italian architect Domenico Trazzini was the author of the first master plan of the city of 1716. Direct perpendicular streets, wide prospecta, became characteristic feature of the new capital. Such planning is visible on the example of Vasilievsky Island and Trident. The Admiralty, Nevsky Avenue, Korokovaya Street, Voznesensky Avenue. Almost all building of the central part of the city appeared later, but geometrically set areas and streets defined the image of the city up to now. The crucial role in it was played by Peter I's identity. He personally chose the place of Nevsky Avenue, the Admiralty, the Peter and Paul Fortress, entered rigid town planning discipline. All buildings under his decree had to be under construction of a stone. Along with it, in all other cities of Russia it was forbidden to use a stone as the main construction material. In those days the style of Petrovsky Baroque, which representatives are Italians D. Trazzini, J. M. Fontana, N. Michetti, Frenchman Jean-Baptiste Leblond, Germans A. Schluter, G. Natarnovi, the Russian M. Zemtsov gained distribution. In the city remained several buildings built in this style. The Peter and Paul Fortress with Peter and Paul Cathedral, the Summer Palace, Cabinet of Curiosities, the Building of 12 Boards, Menshikov Palace. In the middle of the 18th century, the style of the Elizabethan Baroque presented by F.B. Rastrelli's architects. The Winter Palace, Smolny Convent, the Grand Peterhof Palace in Peterhof, Big Catherine Palace in Tarskoye Selo. And S. 1. Cheverkinsky began to prevail. Street. Nicholas Naval Cathedral. In 1844, the Emperor Nicholas I issued the decree on prohibition to build civil buildings in the city above eaves of the Winter Palace. From the second half of the 18th century, prevailing in a city architecture became classicism. Main architects of this style: 5.1 Bazanov, Mikhailovsky Castle. B. Valendy Lamode, building of Academy of Arts, Bolshoi Gostiny Dvor. A. Rinaldi, Marble Palace. Idest, Starov, Torite Palace, Trinity Cathedral of Alexander Nevsky Lavra. J. Kavarenji, the building of Smolny Institute, the Alexandrovsky Palace in Tarskoye Selo. Chach, Cameron, Pavlovsk Palace. And later, since the beginning of the 19th century, his kind, style of the Russian Empire style A.N. Voronikin, Kazan Cathedral, Anno Domini, Zakharov, Main Admiralty, Thomas D. Toman, Spit of Vasilievsky Island. K. 1. Rossi, Mikhailovsky Palace, General Staff Building, Alexandrinsky Theater, Building of the Senate and Synod. 5. D. Stasov, Transfiguration Cathedral, Fruitsizmilovsky Cathedral. O. Montferrand Street, Isaac's Cathedral. In the middle of the 19th century in architecture, the eclecticism began to prevail. A. 1. Stockenschneider, Marinsky Palace, Beloselsky Palace. A. P. Bryulov, Lutheran Church of Saints Peter and Paul. K. A. Ton, building of Moskovsky Railway Station. A. Ireland, Church of the Saviour on Blood. The construction of new embankments and bridges begins with the middle of the century. There is a big construction of profitable houses. During this period, Foundry, Vladimir and country avenues are formed. At the beginning of the 20th century in the city there are buildings in modernist style, among which the House of the Zinger Company, Elisif Emporium, Astoria Hotel, the Vitebsky Railway Station. During this period the Massachusetts character was gained by decoration of profitable houses, private mansions and public construction stained glass windows. Afterwards the style of neoclassicism. The house with towers at Leo Tolstoy Square, which was replaced from 1920th years by constructivism. Palace of Culture of A.M. Gorky, big house on Lightiny Avenue. And a Stalin Empire style. Ensembles of Moscow Square, Moskovsky Avenue, Stuchek Avenue, Kalinin Square, station of the first stage of the Leningrad subway. Came. Since 1923, housing construction in new areas by the principle of complex building, Жилмассива, begins. Since the beginning of the 1960th years, Massachusetts construction of 5-story apartment blocks, and from 1970th years of houses ships, began. At the same time there are buildings built on individual projects.
Yubileyny Sports Palace, Ensemble of Victory Square, Pribaltiskaya Hotel, Sports and Concert Complex of 5.1.
Lenin, building of Pulkovo Airport. Recently there is a demolition of buildings in the historic center. Barracks of the Preobrazhensky Regiment. One of the oldest in Russia. An engineer battalion. Kiriknaya Street. 5 houses on Nevsky Avenue, the case of the 18th century and interiors of the House of Chikrin, several houses on Vostania Street and Lytiny Avenue, the house on Voznesensky Avenue, a number of buildings on the Petrograd side and another were destroyed. Some of the demolished houses had the official status of monuments of architecture.
In 2008, changes in the legislation which withdrew the ban on privatization of monuments of federal importance operating in Russia since 2002 came into force.
About 650 structures of the city which are so far in the federal list of protection can be included in this list of privatization. During a classicism era, the Russian Empire propagandized a solemn, major image of street. Petersburg is the ideal city which is given rise counter to elements according to rational plans of educators.
Northern Semiramis's reputation gained a foothold in Europe for Catherine II Street.
Petersburg was called by street. Petersburg.
Court poets sang of it in odes. Landscape writers of a circle of Fyodor Alekhiev created Veduta with views of boundless avenues and squares where against the background of grandiose buildings staffishly figures of people are lost.
It is necessary to leave street. Petersburg for some time, it is necessary to see the ancient capitals. Shabby Paris, Zakopchiny London to feel the price of street. Petersburg. Look what unity. As all parts answer whole. What beauty of buildings, what taste and in general what variety coming from mixture of water with buildings. A.S. Pushkinin, Bronze Horseman. 1833. Created an image of street.
Petersburg as it is speculatively designed space, a fruit of the rationalism of the Age of Enlightenment erected on swamps at will of the monarch at the price of uncountable human lives so hostile to feelings and happiness of little people.
In the street. Petersburg stories of Gogol, everything is wet smoothly, exactly, faintly is grey, is foggy. The author Impressionist Dabs draws the capital of the empire as the place of revelry of devil forces hostile to the person under which the unsteady soil always moves, threatening to soak up in itself and majestic, but cold buildings, both heartless government departments.
And the great number of little unfortunate officials filling them.
S. Volkov. Against street. Petersburg were up in arms, besides Gogol, and his friends Slavophiles of the Moscow ferment. The first condition for release in itself captured feeling of nationality, to begin to hate street. Petersburg all heart and all thoughts, I.S. Aksakov wrote, for example, the labyrinth of main entrances and profitable houses which isn't intended for life behind a veil of unhealthy evaporations and eternal fogs, N.A. Nekrasov F.M. Dostoevsky's heroes sent to stone bulks of the imperial capital the damnations. His hero of the novel Teenager argues, to me 100 times among this fog the strange, but persuasive dream was set. And what is this fog will scatter and will leave up, whether will leave with it together, and all this rotten, sklizely city, will rise with fog and will disappear as smoke, and there will be a former Finnish swamp, and in the middle of him, perhaps, for beauty, the bronze rider on the horse hot breeding, tired up. Predictions of inevitable death of this chilling giant, if not from a flood, then from the fire. Gained further development in literature of Silver Age, especially in process of growth of factory suburbs. According to the diary entry of M. Kuzmin, the street. Petersburg intellectuals looked at dog factories with such gloomy and scared look as if from a city tower of guards on hands at city walls. Researchers find something funeral in House Street. Petersburg by P. 1. Tchaikovsky in Queen of Spades is depicted. In M. Doboshinsky sketches in City Verses by A. Blokhin in the novel by A. Belay Street. Petersburg, the infernal, otherworldly aura of the imperial capital is revealed. These works make some kind of requiem where street. Petersburg is shown, already doomed to death, but still fine by agonal, elusive beauty. V. 1. Zamyatin. Street. Petersburg, from similar formation of myths, was spoken out in defense from neoclassicism positions by artists of the world of art, led by Benoit, who complained, "It seems, there is all over the world no city which would use smaller sympathy than street." Petersburg. In watercolors from history of the 18th century and in a cycle of educational articles. Picturesque street. Petersburg, beauty of street. Petersburg, etc. Benoit notes a heroic system and a peculiar poetic charm of the old city. Amazingly deep and wonderful musicality reigns in all street. Petersburg. These nostalgic motives were picked up later in A. Akhmatova's creativity. With moving of the capital to Moscow, 1918. The Russian culture from the exposer turned into the weeper and the defender of the city on Neva, until recently seeming brutal. In the Akhmatova poem, Requiem, the city seems as the sufferer because to the middle of the 20th century, Leningrad stopped being a symbol of oppression and alienation, having become an embodiment of the century cultural wealth of the Russian society doomed to destruction by ruthless totalitarian regime. Street. Petersburg text is set various literary, prosaic and poetic, art and documentary and publicistic. The works creating a multidimensional and difficult image of the city on Neva I became one of the most interesting and most large-scale phenomena of the Russian culture. The created works created during an era when street. Petersburg was the capital of the Russian Empire, the street. Petersburg text was expanded creative efforts of already Soviet and post-Soviet authors subsequently. In expanded understanding, the street. Petersburg/Leningrad text includes not only literary works, but also works of other genres, in particular the film and television movies, pieces of music devoted and / are associated with the city. The street. Petersburg text is the base of the symbolical capital of street. Petersburg, which provides enduring interest in the city both from Petersburgers and from residents of other cities in the countries. Physical culture and sport. In street. Petersburg, both the amateur and professional sport is developed. In the city of 1649 gyms, 118 pools, 18 skiing lodges, 17 covered objects with artificial ice, 13 stadiums with stands more than 1,500 places, 11 rowing bases and channels, 10 sports palaces, a bicycle track. Among them there are Gazprom Arena and Petrovsky stadiums, Yubileyny Sports Palace, the Ice Arena, Winter Stadium, the Sports and Concert Street. Petersburg Complex. It is demolished, reconstruction is planned. Siberty Arena, the swimming pool of Ski. The important center of sports culture is the University of Lesgaft. In the city professional clubs are based. Soccer. Zenit, one of the strongest clubs of Premier League of the Championship of Russia, the owner of the UEFA Cup 2007/08. European Super Cup 2008. Dynamo, Zenit -2 and Star act in the zone west of superiority of Feniel -2. Hockey. SKA, one of the strongest clubs of Kiev, the owner of the Gagarin Cup 2014/2015, 2016/2017. SKA Neva and AIK, Dynamo St. Petersburg, in Vlevo. SKA -1946, SKA Silver Lions and EMIC, Dynamo St. Petersburg, in the Momel Championship. Szech, Dynamo St. Petersburg, in Sha'al. Basketball. Zenit acts in the United League, Spartak, since 2014 acts in amateur competitions. Dynamo. I existed in 2004-2006. Volleyball. Motorist, acts in the highest League B of the Championship of Russia, Zenit acts in the Super League. Leningradka, acts in the Super League of the Championship of Russia. Beach soccer. Crystal, one of the strongest clubs of the Championship of Russia of the last years, the owner of the Cup of the European Champions in Beach Soccer 2014, 2015, 2020, 2021 years. The women's team on beach soccer, Star. It is founded in 2013. Is a 5-time champion of Russia. 2015, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020. And also the winner of the Cup of the European Champions in 2018. 5A side. The Polytechnic University acting in the Super League. Aurora. Women's Mini Football Club. Handball. Lesgafta Neva University, one of the strongest clubs of a Super League of the Championship of Russia among men. Field hockey. Metrostro. Women's Hockey Club. American soccer. Griffins, champions of Russia in the American Soccer 2015, act in the Prime Minister Division since 2016. The Northern Legion acts in the North Division since 2016. Valkyries act in the highest league of Finland since 2016. Also far. Write comments. Read comments. Interesting people will tell interesting stories. All of good mood and good luck.